Hi there and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining and pitching in. On today's example, we will be looking at the third example over here, and it's a continuation from example 1 and example 2. So we are kind of doing building blocks. For today's example, this is what we are going to work with. Say we are a project manager and we want to use some few functional tools here on Excel to make our lives easier. By the way, you can always relate what we're going to do here with your respective work. If you work in finance, you can always just, or in HR, align it with what you usually do. Just use a similar concept and make it yours. This is just a surface example. We can always build up as we progress from example 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are going to intensify when we get to example 5, 6, and 7. That's when now we're going to go to power queries and everything else. For now, let's stick to the shell bases in respective to example 3 based on its level. Let's start. So for this example, here we have a table, but before I progress, I just want to show you how I came about designing that table. Firstly, it's always easy to populate data on Excel or automatically populate it. For example, I want Excel to automatically fill in these values when we're going down. I'm just going to drag it. There we go. Now, because our table ends here at row 19, what Excel is going to do is it will automatically take this as the point of reference of where our rows end. So if I just double click at the bottom of this here, it'll automatically populate plant A going down. But what if I want to use this sequence going down? I just highlight the sequence that I want, double click on the right bottom corner, and it will use that same sequence that we had all the way until this 17th project. We can do the same thing here as well. Just click on the right bottom corner and we'll use that sequence. Let's also use this pattern going down, or you can just start from completed going down. You'll see it will start with completed and use the same sequence or pattern. You're probably asking yourself, and then what do we do here? What we can do here is that we don't want to write down these values by ourselves. This is just an ideal example. So what we can do is, yes, random numbers, but we can ask Excel to do that for us. So I'm just going to say random numbers, rand between the lowest value can be 12,000. And mine uses semicolons to separate. And then the top or the highest value would be 20,000. If I just close my brackets there, that's what it does. And if you ask yourself, how did I get to this currency? I just came on this tab here. Now I want to use this formula going down. I want Excel to just come up with the most random figures it can think of. There we go. So it really did that for us. I wonder why it went down to that. What was the lowest value? Oh, it's 1.2, not 12,000. Okay, that's why we have 4,000 there. So that's how you can automatically make your life easy using Excel in terms of creating a generic idealistic table. But obviously, if this is work related or based on facts, you're going to use the relevant information. Now let's get back to the third example. For the third example, we are going to do or look at some 3 beautiful functions that you can use here. The first one is how to make a row on Excel. So you are going to say equals to rows, open bracket, use your reference point where you want the row to start counting from. It's this point here. Then fix it. Fixing it meaning make it a standard. It won't change. It will be like that. Because you know how Excel works, right? If you drag, if you highlight something and then you drag going down, the number will always increase. So I want this one to be fixed. So I'm going to press FN, F4 at the same time. So your FN key and F4 key at the same time. Now it's fixed, meaning it won't change. It's going to be a reference point. This one we can select it again. Good. So now what I just did, let's look at it together. Rows, bracket, reference point is this point here, separated. Then let me just see if I use this formula properly. Array. Okay. I don't know if I use the right point. Let me see. I think actually we are supposed to use this colons instead of the same colon. Okay. So we can show the range, right? And it's going to start counting from here, from B8. Let's be practical. Perfect 1. If I drag it down, notice how the formula changes. So now this formula is no longer B8, it's B9. It changed. If we drag it down again, you'll notice the reference point will always be B8, but when we get to this third column, we are now at B9. 10. So it's counting from B8 to B10. In total, that is 3. So if we drag it down again, it's going to count now from B8 to B11. The difference is 4. The range is 4. So basically, this is what the formula means. I don't have to drag it down manually myself. I can just click on the right bottom corner and it will go to the last text on our table. The last text is project 17, hence it counted all the way down until this text here. If our last text was here, it was going to drag all the way down until that text. Now for question 3.b, I want us to use an Excel function that's going to calculate how many times a specific plant area pops up. So each time plant A pops up, I want it to start counting. So for example, from here, it must say 1. From here, it must say 2. From here, it must say 3. So now if you work in a different company or different organization or different environment, you can use this differently for your scenario. If you work in a hospital, you can calculate how many times one particular customer or a patient visited the hospital, maybe 5 times. How many times a specific person appears in your data as an HR, maybe 7 times. You know, how many times did this person send an application to your company? Like those little things that really can help you, small functional tools. So really you can relate this to whatever is respective, guys. So for example, for this particular example, I wanted only to show me how many times plant A is going to populate on this table, guys. Again, it's a very simple example, okay? Don't be too hard on me. Okay, so we are going to say if. I'm going to use an if statement. Notice how it explains as we move. It says it checks whether a condition is met, return one value if true and another if it's false. So let's open our bracket. If values in C8 matches C8. Notice and hear me very properly. If values in this cell matches this cell, then it is true, right? So C8, we are going to fix it as our reference point. FN, F4, semicolons, C8. This one we're not fixing it because we want it to be respective to a specific cell. As we drag it down, it will change to C9, C10, C11, C12, just like that. So we are saying if this particular cell that will be respective as we drag it down. So if C8 in this respective, it will be C9 as we drag it down, C10 as we drag it down. It's the exact same as this C8 here. Then our argument is true. So let's close our bracket. It is true. I hope you guys got that part. Semicolon. Now we are back to the if statement, right? So if it is true, what must the if statement do? Use the max function. Notice how it explains as we move. It says the max function returns the largest value in the set of values and ignores the logical values and text. So what we are going to do is saying if it is true, calculate the maximum value in the ranges G7, this part here, I'll tell you why. Fix it, FN, F4, range to G7. This one don't fix it because we want it to change with respect to each row that we drag it down, plus 1. Close that semicolon. Hear me out, guys. We are saying if it's true, from this point or this cell here, G7, start counting and add a plus 1 from the maximum value, excluding the current cell. So cell A will be 0, but as we move down, it will start counting. So it will ignore the cell of selection. Hence, we started at G7, not G8 with respect to the rows that we are working with. If else the statement is not true, if it's false, don't put anything, semicolons, close bracket, done. Oh, I didn't put the exact sign, guys. Exact. Perfect, there we go. If I drag it down, let's see what it does. There we go, it worked very well. We expected a second count here because we have plant A appearing again. And we said if C8 is exactly the same as the fixed C8, then it's true. And if it's true, start counting from the maximum value. And the maximum value was 1, so it's going to add plus 1, so it will be 2 here. And notice that when we click on this formula here, we are at C13. And if we come here, we are at C20. So this formula now says if C20 is exactly the same as C8, and they are because it's plant A and plant A, then this argument is true. And if it is true, start counting from the maximum value, excluding the cell of reference, this one here, add a +1. And if it's false, leave an open space. We could have said if it's false, for example, here, if it's false, put NA. And that's what we'll do. If I drag it down, if it's false, we'll do NA. But because we said if it's false, don't put anything, we didn't put anything instead of our quotation marks, the value, if it's false, you can see how it shows you if the logic test, if it's true, add +1. If it's false, leave a space. What's the logic test here? If it's exactly the same as C8, then it's true. So here, I'm just going to drag it down because I don't want anything to appear when the argument is false. Let's just remove the NAs and clean up. So I really hope that argument or the statement makes sense. If you have time, try this on your laptop so it also makes sense to you as well. Now let's look at the last example. Our last example, guys, we are going to look at this one here. Now we want to track the project status, right? Say we want to know only how far project A is doing, only project A. So what we are going to do is we are going to say equals to if, right? Let's not put the NA first, we'll put it after, I'll show you why. So if, open bracket, index, so this index will use the results from the match function to locate the corresponding value in the ranges from E8 all the way to E24. And by the way, if you don't know where E8 is, here it is, our status is. So it's going to look up based on our ranges, based on the status as well, based on the match results on our statuses. So this is what we mean. Open bracket, we want to see, remember we want to track the status projects, right? So we are going to say E8 all the way to E24, close bracket. No, semicolon. We need to fix it because this part here won't change and we don't want it to change as we drag our rows down. Now we are going to say match. Match explains itself. It says, it returns the relative position of an item in an array, matches a specific value in a specific order. C8, fix it, Fn, F4, and the row, corresponding row here, number 1, fix it, Fn, F4, semicolon. Ranging from this cell here, from the top all the way to the bottom. So C8, fix it, Fn, F4, ranging all the way down to this one here at the bottom, plant C. So it's going to check and evaluate on each point here. Point A, plant A, all their respective statuses, right? And don't forget to fix it as well, guys. Fix it. Fn, 4. And, or with respect to this row here, so it will be from here all the way down to the last row. Semicolon, make sure that this one as well is fixed so it doesn't change as we drag it down. Fn, F4. 0 means exact match. If it's false, leave just semicolons, close bracket. There's an error here. Don't forget to close your brackets for each argument. There we go. Okay, there's an error. Let's include the if NA. Let's adjust it and say NA. Okay, perfect. I'll take you guys through as we progress. Now, what the if NA basically means is that if it was going to return that an NA or an error was applicable, do not include it. So if the argument is true, show us the results, the status of the progress of our project, and if it's false, leave it as blank. Enter. Perfect. So if I drag it down, I expect to see only plant A's results and their statuses. There we go. So plant A is completed. Let's say here in progress, and that should automatically update as well. What about this part here? Cost changes. If we say in progress, it changes as well. This would be very useful if you want to filter out your huge spreadsheet and you just want to look at plant A, because it's very complicated if there's plant B. If it's like this, it's hard to follow. So even if you just want to say plant A, and then you can always change your formula side and say plant B, just to suit however you want it to work for you. Again, guys, this is just me giving you guys ideas that you can take here and make it work very well for you. What if we said we want to see if there's an NA part, guys? So this is what I was trying to achieve. If we remove the NA part, I expect to see NA if the argument is false. For example, this is not applicable, because we only want to see plant A. But then again, we can just say, don't show the NA, rather leave it as blank. And I'm expecting those NAs to disappear, just like that. I really hope this makes sense, guys. I really hope you can take this information and make it work for your benefit and use it somewhere in your projects, at your workplace, in your professional, in your career, so that it really adds value to you as well. Next up, we'll be doing or getting more into the complicated parts as we progress and see how you can actually report your data into tables and graphs that automatically populate themselves using just buttons or speedometers. Let's really have fun with this Excel thing. I feel like it's a very useful tool that we really need to make use of and just not type things there, but have it make us look good as well. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Bye.